All righty. Welcome to BenThere. I am super excited about today's guest. We're going to get into that in just a second. First things first, though, I obviously am not very good at the calendar issue. Forgot totally that this is Mother's Day, so my bad to those of you that usually watch the show and maybe have to watch this on replay. That's totally great, too. It's going to be a good one. But I also wanted to just take this moment to wish all mothers around the world a happy Mother's Day. I know it's nighttime for some of you, depending on where you're at. But here in Utah, here in the States, it is Mother's Day. And I just want to take this time to wish everybody who, especially the moms, obviously, a super happy Mother's Day. So I want to welcome everybody else joining, watching live, but also that are going to be watching on BenThere.org, which this will replay afterwards. But also, it's kind of a cool moment here. This is the first time we are live on Facebook, obviously, which most of you watch us on. But we're also now, I just launched a BenThere YouTube channel. So these will also be live on YouTube as well. So all you have to do is once you get to the YouTube channel, do a search for BenThere, and you should be good to go. These are live on those. These are live on Facebook. It boggles my mind, man. This was just supposed to be something fun. I keep saying this every time we go live, but this was supposed to be something fun to help me personally get through the quarantine and just kind of have a little fun with something and bring back a lot of people that I grew up with. And it's exploded, and I'm super happy about that. And thank you guys for watching. Like I said last week, when Wilson was on, we will keep doing these, or I'll keep doing these as long as people keep watching. We're up to about 5,000 views, if not more, over the last couple months. So just keep watching, and we'll keep doing these. So thank you very much. And the intro you heard, I promised him when he was on, Roman Gradel, that's his music. So go to BenThere.org and you can hear the rest of his 7 songs. But his intro, that is his intro, and I just want to kind of give a little shout out to Roman for allowing me to play his stuff live. So he's a good one. Music's great. Just to kind of remind everybody, the concept of the show is about people. I'm just someone who always has enjoyed people. I've been around a lot of cultures, a lot of people in my day, growing up overseas, and the majority of the people on this show, third culture kids. I keep getting a lot of notes and whatnot regarding what does TCK stand for. It's a fairly new term. I heard about it about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. But again, third culture kids, and it's people that grew up outside their passport country. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear. The majority of the people, the guests that I'm going to have on, today's guest is also one of them, but they're third culture kids. But not everybody. Next week, actually, if it works out, my buddy from Boise is going to be on, and that's going to be kind of fun. So, yeah. So that said, today's guest, Mr. Alexander Goudsmit. Alex is a TAS graduate. He TAS meaning Taipei American School. For those of you that are not in the know, I'm trying to load up his bio here. He in his youth, Alex was, well, not in his youth, I guess. You were born in the Netherlands. He actually, I talked to him before we went on air. It's kind of funny. I thought I held the record for most moves by someone my age, but he's got me beat. I have 24 moves in 44 years. And Alex and I were talking earlier. He's got 28, both within in the Netherlands and overseas. But in his youth, this is something I did not know about the guy. He was a member of the Netherlands ski team, and it was a 7-time national youth champion in Alpine skiing. And he holds the honors of representing the Netherlands at 3 youth Olympic games. The son of a diplomat, Alex and his family moved to San Francisco. That was their first overseas posting. In 1983, he continued to ski in the States for the Squaw Valley Racing Team before moving back to the Netherlands in 1986. A year later, Alex moved to Taiwan just after his 17th birthday, where he attended and graduated from Taipei American School in 1989, but he came back and did a post-grad year, part of the IB program in 1990. Leaving Taiwan after that, Alex went to the Royal Art Academy in The Hague, but ended up going back to Taiwan for a year in 1991. He eventually moved back to the Netherlands to study photography. Alex ended up in IT, first as a part-time gig, and then he eventually turned that into a career, which he's still doing today. This is pretty cool, and I'm jealous of everybody who speaks more than one language, but he's also fluent in Dutch, English, French, and German. Alex did. He's a consumer tech support, or does consumer tech support, excuse me, or did. We'll get to that in a second. Finally, he is a technical product lead, did systems engineering, and currently is technical account manager before moving into other things. I guess I'll let you explain that in detail, Alex. But the kind of cool story that we're going to get to later on, he met his wife on a ski trip in Austria. And they together have their 6-year-old son, Jasper. Alex still loves to travel, especially in combination with his photography. He's a music buff. He still skis, and he also plays tennis in his free time. But if I look back on my days, like I said, he is a little bit older than me. I think of Alex as a sports guy. You used to play soccer for TAS. I remember that well. I used to watch. He was one of my brother's good friends. And I just remember I didn't know him well, which is kind of cool to have you on, Alex. But everything I remember back in the day, man, you were just always a good dude, and I appreciate that. So as a youngster looking up to you older folks, I just remember you always being nice. Everybody that I've ever talked to about you in leading up to this show just bragged about he was just the nicest guy, or still is the nicest guy. So without further ado, I want to the way this works, and Alex, you and I have talked about this. I usually read your intro bio, but I want you to kind of get into your own bio and talk to the people that are watching what you've been up to the last 20 years. So, Alexander Goudsmit, go ahead, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. It's an honor to be here. It's a pleasure. Yeah, wow, it's a half a lifetime ago. Taiwan. Yeah, I mean, you said I initially did the IB program, where I got a chance to do both photography and art, which was unique to be able to do that in a school, to have that kind of a curriculum and be able to expand not just on sciences or languages. I was even able to do Dutch in IB, which was pretty cool, even in Taiwan. Philips and Unilever and like the big companies there paid for the Dutch stream so that they could get the Dutch kids with their parents come over. So that's how I got into photography and art. And I just, it was hard to make a choice in what I wanted to do, because it was pre-internet. How am I going to find out what kind of schools there were, what colleges, what direction I want to go into? But I loved art, so I went to art school. I don't think I was ready for life outside of Taiwan, away from my parents and in Europe. Huge culture shock. So the first opportunity, also I still had a girlfriend in Taiwan who was younger than me, so still in TAS. So I had an opportunity to go back and see her, which I did. After that year, it really was time to go back to the Netherlands and study and do something. So I studied photography for a year, started doing IT as a part-time gig to support myself during my studies. Really liked it. And it led into a permanent career. I started at a software company called Symantec, who did security and antivirus. Did a number of technical roles, really enjoyed that. Consumer, corporate, premium support, made my way through the ranks, so to speak. Technical account manager, I've been a technical product lead, a pre-sales consultant, and then they finally asked if I wanted to become a manager. And that's, since then, I've been managing service and support teams for mostly international companies, which is good because I don't think I could work for a Dutch company on the Dutch market. I think I would prove myself. Most of my life, I've been speaking English on the work floor. I've had, now again, I work for a company that I'm like, I think in the whole support team, which is between 20 and 30 people globally, that I'm responsible for, I'm the only Dutch person. So that should tell you something. So,
oh, really? Wow. That's cool.
So very international. And I've always worked for whether it was McAfee or Dell or Cisco, Juniper Networks, it's been international teams focusing on either Europe, Middle East, Africa, or globally sometimes, but which I love. I love working with customers. I love the whole service area and making that customer experience the best you can. So that's what I've been doing. I like it. I think I have quite a bit of experience in that now. I've been doing it since probably 1995 or something. Okay. So yeah, I really like that. Right now, I'm a senior customer support manager for a fintech company, Mambu, and I'm responsible globally for the support. So I'm a senior customer support manager, and we have a support team in Berlin, Amsterdam, Miami, Singapore, and Sydney.
Okay.
So half of the job is the communication around incidents, and the other half is creating tools, programs, and processes to improve customer experience. Yeah, and that's really what I've been doing.
No, that's awesome, man. I talk about your 28 moves, because I know you and I talked about off air. You started. Your dad was a diplomat. Am I right in saying that? For Holland?
He was quite the character. He started out in acting.
Oh, really?
He did theater.
Nice.
He later said that was probably the best preparation for being a diplomat. So he was an actor in the Netherlands. He moved to Paris, did acting in Paris. Then he got his law degree in French, which I think is amazing to study that sort of material in a foreign language.
Talk about extremes, right? Go from acting to law school. Yeah. What kind of acting was it? Was it stage? Was it
stage?
Commercial?
Yeah. Okay. Stage. Yeah. And then Phillips got wind of, hey, a guy who's put himself through university, who in a foreign language, who at the same time to get through college, he opened up his own advertising agency. So they're like, okay, that's the kind of guy we need. So they asked him to join Philips as artist and repertoire. That's how he got back into the Netherlands. And he did a number of things. He was always promoting like the Netherlands. He worked for the Netherlands. Was it the Holland promotion? He did the Netherlands promotion abroad. So he was already involved in those kind of things. And then finally ended up being a diplomat, which there's sort of two branches. Pretty much. It's either the embassy or the consulate, where the embassy is more the political relationship side. The consulate is more the trade side. So he got his first posting, which was a lottery, because he got San Francisco as his first post.
That's not a bad gig, for your first post. Yeah.
You usually have to do 4 years of Tehran or something like that. He got San Francisco as his first post, which was amazing. So so because he switched a lot, I moved around a ton of times. So I think where I was born in that town, I think we left already by the time I was 2. Then we lived the next one for 3 years. Then we lived somewhere for 2 years. So before we moved to California, I think I'd had 6 or 7 moves, or maybe 8 already.
And you were what? How old were you when you moved to California? 8?
13.
13. Okay, a little bit older. Okay, but still,
13.
Yeah. By then you were a solid veteran of moving, though. So it sounds like
true. And I just thought, I just started high school, and I just thought moving to California was the coolest thing ever.
Yes. How was your English? How was your English back then?
It was okay. English is mandatory in school at some point. We'd already started with English classes, so I had a foundation of English. One of the good things we have in the Netherlands, that all of our TV shows that are not Dutch are not dubbed like a lot of other countries in Europe, but we have subtitles. So I've been watching TV, like when I grew up, we watch, I don't know, the A-Team or Battlestar Galactica or whatever it was in English with Dutch subtitles. That really helps your language skills.
Yeah.
So we moved to Marin County, just north of San Francisco, on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, in a little place called Tiburon, which was unreal. Our house was just amazing. Rented by the government up in the hills overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, San Francisco skyline, and Angel Island. I mean, from our deck, that was our view.
Sounds rough, man.
Yeah.
No, how long were you there? How long were you in college?
Almost 3 years.
Okay. So you remember it well, definitely, right?
Yes. Right? Yeah. And I've been back a few times.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So let me get it. Okay, so you moved around Europe a lot, specifically in Holland, I guess, right?
Yep.
And then you went to the States, and then from the States you ended up in Taiwan, and that's kind of where you and I connected. And then you ended up in Europe again. So, biggest question I ask everybody right away, right out of the gate: where's home, man?
That's a tough one. I think I think now I would say it's with my family, with my wife and son. That's where we make home. But if you're talking about a place, there's like things pulling at me when you ask me that. There's like some part of me screaming Taiwan, because it's the place I grew up in, the place, yeah, I still miss the most. But I've lived in before. We now live in the suburbs. Before this, I lived in the city of Amsterdam, and I really started to feel at home there. It's also the city where my dad is originally from, so I had some ties there. Yeah, it's a hard one to answer, but let's say it's a toss up between my current home where I live and Taiwan.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. That's why I usually I ask that question right away, because it kind of throws people, and yet I get it. I understand the confusion, because you've watched all these shows, and we're trying to get better at all these every time, but it's so hard not to talk about every time I ask that own question, because obviously I'm American by birth, but I spent the significant portion of my childhood overseas in Asia. Growing years, right? I call them growing years. I was 7 when we moved overseas and 17 when I came back to the States. So, but ironically, where I'm at now is where I've lived the longest. My wife's from here. So yeah, technically this is home, but it's not home. You know, I totally get it, right?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's just, but I think you said it best. I love that answer, actually, because the longer I talk about this stuff, and the more we go through it, I do agree with you. I think it's about the people you're around. Home becomes not necessarily a place, but about the people that you're around.
Yeah,
especially you. I mean, we'll get into this later, but you're married with a kid and all that. So home is where they are, right? So just like here now, home is where my wife is. So we'll see. We'll see if we stay here, and we'll see where life takes us. But it's such a tricky question, especially for people that grew up the way we did. So I appreciate you answering that. That's an honest answer, and that's why I go right out of the gate. I always ask that question to all the guests. So, and
I knew it was coming, and I still
yeah, it takes a minute. It's probably the hardest question. We're going to go through a lot of questions today, but that's probably the hardest question. I try to get the hardest one right out of the way. So let's talk about this. One of the things that I'm really excited about having you on for, a lot of the reasons I'm excited about having you on, but obviously I come from the American perspective of being a TCK. We've had a couple others on that, like Roman. You saw Roman's, and you knew Roman, you knew Roman. So
yep.
He's in Israel right now, but I wanted to really have you on to explain the European angle, because obviously I can't relate to what you went through. You can probably relate more to what I went through, but I can't relate to what you went through, being I'm not from Europe. But in terms of your starting point, I mean, you moved around Holland. That's awesome. Dad was a diplomat. You moved to the States. Let's start. This is kind of a 3-part question, but I want to talk about how you were accepted, or if you can talk about stories or frustrations or all the above regarding your move to the States and then to Taipei in Asia. And then we're going to get into acclimation in just a minute, going back to Holland. But if you can talk about maybe moving around Europe to start, and then to the States, and then through Asia, if you can maybe give kind of an example of how that was for you, especially as a youngster. I mean, you were 13. That's right as adolescence is starting. Were you accepted right away? What were the struggles? What were the positives? Everything like that, and in between. So go ahead, man.
I think in the Netherlands, I was still very young, and kids are like, "Hey, new kid to play with. Is he nice? Yeah, okay, let's play." Kids are awesome when it comes to that. They're very accepting. When you're 13, it's a little different. I struggled I think at first in the US, but because I'm also an only child. I have a half brother. My father was married before. I have a half brother, but he's 9 years older, and we never grew up together. For like maybe 1 year, we were in the same house. That's it. So we're not very close. So I guess I was used to being myself. In some ways, I'm a bit of a loner, and I like my own space. So, quarantine for me is not really a bad thing. I can handle that fairly well.
Right? Yeah. I actually like being home too. So it's not a bad thing. So yeah, go ahead.
But when I think it was, the hard part was when you're not 16, you don't have your own transportation. So and the way where we lived and where I went to school was so far apart. My mom had to drive me and pick me up.
Yeah. That
does not do good things for your social life.
Yeah.
So I had some friends. Most of them were probably friends of my family that had kids the same age. We would go over and we'd play, or, we'd hang out by the pool, and we were friends, but it wasn't like I would meet up with them without our parents doing something together. But I think for me, when I moved to California, it wasn't so much about the people for me at that age, but it was more about the place. I got to see so much in the United States. That's one. And two, I think what also didn't help for me to make friendship is that I was gone every weekend skiing.
Yeah.
My father would pick me up Friday after school with the family station wagon with the skis in the back. We would drive to Lake Tahoe. I would do racing on Saturday and Sunday. My dad would do free skiing because he's a ski fanatic as well. And then we would drive back. I'd do some homework in the evening, and then Friday and then Sunday night we drive back to the Bay Area. And I would just have racing training for most of the weekend. Yeah, that also doesn't do your social life any good. So I didn't have time to play other sports or anything because I was not going to be there for games in the weekend. So yeah. So I guess all of those things combined didn't really help for me to have a lot of friends while I was there. But I got to see a lot. I got to, see a lot of ski resorts in the far west. I got to see a lot of the States. We did a trip from New York to San Francisco and then up to Vancouver down to San Diego. So that's a lot of miles, but you get to see the country in an RV. And we just, went to different campsites, not in the major metropolis or anything like that, but really just to see the country and meet the people and see some crazy things along the way.
That's awesome. When you found out I don't know if you can remember far back. I mean, I remember being 8 or 7 years old and being told we were going to Hong Kong. My brother and I and the family moved to Hong Kong. That was our first post. I was 7. So, I mean, as long as you and I talked about this a little bit too, as long as there were kids somewhat of our own age or relatively close to our own age, nobody cares, right? You just, that was fine. But can you recall back to what maybe was going through your head when you were first told that you were moving to America? Do you remember that, or is that too far back? Or
no, I thought it was cool. I think one, because all the TV and all the music and everything we that was presented to us was from the US. So I think I was just really excited. I'd moved around so much. I didn't really have a lot of close friends because we'd moved around a lot already. No. I'd had to say goodbye to friends already during the years. So I didn't really feel like I was leaving a lot behind, but it was more like an amazing adventure to go see something completely different. And I think I was very different when I returned after 3 years.
Yeah, totally. And we'll get into that in just a little bit because I want to talk about acclimation, and especially going back to Europe and going back to Holland. So that was your U.S. experience. And then, so you were in the States 3 years, and then you get told you're moving to Taiwan.
Well,
right?
We first moved back to the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I didn't really have time to think about the year in the Netherlands was a whirlwind because we came back. I went back to the old school I went to. But
how did that go? Were they accepting, or was it more?
The kids were all like, "Oh my God, he lived in the States. How cool!" Mm-hmm. So they looked up to me a little bit. Very different than before. So suddenly I was one of the cool kids.
Did you, when you were in the States, let me kind of backstep, and this is something here, there's my mom right there, right? So I told you she'd be watching. So she has a great question here. Did you go to public school in the States, or did you go to private school?
Both.
Okay. Well, wow. Okay.
But yeah, because you're in government, my father was the consul, so the government pays for it. So at first they wanted to send me to a really good school, also because they were worried about me going back to the Netherlands at some point, and how's that going to work? So let's make sure. So I went to a private school in San Rafael, which is about an hour away from San Francisco. So it was, like I said, my mom had to drive me and pick me up because there was no school bus to go out that far. Yep. And I didn't like that it was that far away. And also, again, we arrived in the middle of the school year or almost at the end of the school year. And they said, you're really good in all your subjects, except you've missed out on a lot of grammar and comprehension in English. So we think you should
obviously, right? Obviously, yeah.
But I was okay in all my other subjects, but they're like, but in the system is that you're going to have to, we think it's better if you do 9th grade again.
Oh.
But then all the other subjects, I'm like, yeah, but I already had those. So we were like, and then I'm like, I don't want to be at a school where all my friends or all the people I know are now a class ahead of me.
Yeah.
So that's when I said, can we look at a school that's closer to us and where I can be, age-wise, it's fine because I'd actually skipped. They tried skipping me when I got to the States. So I was going to be with my own age group. So it was like, okay, let's go to a public school, but then closer to home. Maybe it'll be easier to make some friends, and I won't be like, the guy that, is doing the year again.
Having worked, I was a teacher for a long time, and I'm still connected to the education system. I'm a coach here too at a high school. But in your perspective, you can think back to those times. What did you feel more comfortable at, the private school route, or was it the public school? So
for me at the time, it was probably the right thing to do with the distance and the situation. However, if I look back at the private school, it had a lot of things that reminded me of Taipei American School.
Yeah.
But I can only see that now. It had a lot to offer, the program and the teachers, the extra things they were doing in school, the facilities. It did remind me now, looking back at it, at Taipei American School, whereas a public school was a lot bigger, and I was a lot more anonymous, and there was a lot less time for teachers to spend with individual kids. Yeah. I felt more comfortable at the time, but I think that's because I didn't want to, like I said, I didn't want to do the school year again and have all my friends be a grade ahead of me.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. I get that totally.
I mean, being in ninth grade is hard enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it was strange age. No matter, I don't care where you're from around the world. It's always a strange age. So, all right. So you spent 3 years in the States. You went to public. You went to private. You made friends. I'm assuming. Obviously, you were on the ski team. We're gonna talk more about your skiing later because I truly want to stress that was impressive when I read your bio, man. I had no idea. I don't think a lot of people do. So
can't do a lot of skiing in Taiwan. So
no, right? Yangmingshan, I guess you can go down the hill, right? But no, it's not the same. But we're gonna kind of come back to that in just a little bit. But so you were in the States, and then you went back to Holland for a year. How did that go when you went back?
So I tried to go back to my old school, and the problem was, even with private tutoring that we tried to keep, because I was in a school that did Latin and Greek as well.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah. So
no pressure there, right? No pressure at all.
Plus Dutch, English, and then German, French.
But that's it, right? That's it. Only 4 languages.
Yeah. So at some point, I think the choice was you either go to, there's a similar school. It's exactly the same, except it doesn't do the classical language. So it doesn't do Latin and Greek, but everything else is the same. Okay. And I was able to go to the next grade if I dropped the Greek and the Latin, because my grade in Greek wasn't good enough. But if I go into the other school, I would go ahead to the next grade because in Greek and Latin. Yeah. So I switched schools. So I think that was 1, 2, 3. So high school number 4.
Yeah. What are you at now? Like a 10th grade? Is that about right? Grade 10?
Yeah, grade 10. Okay. So I just started in this new school, and for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to feel at home. I'm starting making really good friends. I've got some buddies. I'm playing in a field hockey team. I'm starting to make friends. I'm going to parties. I'm like, hey, this is, I like this. This is good. I had a moped, all good.
Yeah. And
then my dad comes home and says, well, we need to have a family meeting because I've just been offered the post in Taiwan. And I was like, okay.
Had you ever been you've never been to Asia, I'm assuming?
I've never been to Asia, no. And then the choice was actually put to me if I wanted to go with them or not. And the reason for that was I had to make a choice whether or not I was going to try and go pro skiing.
Yeah.
I would stay behind and go to a ski school in Austria or Switzerland and go full-time skiing and try to go pro. Or go to Taiwan with my parents, and that would be the end of the skiing career. So, that's a big choice to make at 16.
Yeah.
And my parents said, it's your decision. We're not going to push you in any way, shape, or form. And I think the years in the US had sort of taken my blindfolds off a little bit. And I was like, man, who gets the opportunity, before they're 18 to live on 3 continents, to experience that kind of an adventure? I'm like, I don't think I even had to think about it that long. I was like, this is, besides the chance for a Dutch guy to become really good at skiing and make it a career and actually, support yourself in it is very slim. The money's better now than it was back then, but even then,
Right,
it's
yeah.
because how many famous Dutch skiers are there in Alpine
I don't
skiing?
know. I don't know. I mean, I'm in Utah, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that later too. You got to come out here.
Snowboarding,
Yeah.
we have an Olympic champion, but
Okay.
yeah, skiing, no. So no, I went to Taiwan and I never regretted it.
So explain that situation. So you basically it was your decision, right? What if you would have said no? Would you have stayed? Your dad would have. No, you're fine. Would your dad have stayed in Holland, or would he have gone by himself? How does that work?
No, my parents would have gone to Taiwan.
Okay.
And
What happens to you? Yeah.
I would have gone to a ski school.
Okay.
So like a boarding ski school that basically focuses on skiing and does it so that they build the classes around the skiing.
Okay. No, that's wow. So if you can remember back, because I mean, all of us that ended up in Taiwan, I'm sure we can remember our first week there.
What year did you arrive in Taiwan?
We got there in 1986.
Okay.
I was in Hong Kong from 83 to 86, and then 86 to 93.
That's when I was in the US. Okay, yeah, I got there in April of 1987.
Okay, so we've been there about a year. So, but everybody who grew up in Taipei, especially, I know you didn't grow up there, but you were there still. How many years? 3? Is that about right?
4 and all. 4 and
all. Okay, so realistically, I mean,
important years.
Yeah. I get that.
17 through 21. Yeah.
Yep. I was, I mean, I always say that I was 7 when I left the States and 17 when I came back. That's pretty significant, right? So, but Taiwan, I was 10 and came back at 17. We were there about 6. I was there about 6.5 years. So 7 years, I guess. So, but having said that, do you remember your first week in Taipei?
Oh yeah.
Talk about that, man.
Well, we like a lot of people do. We stayed at the Grand Hotel.
Yeah. We didn't. We stayed downtown. We stayed at a nice fancy hotel. I think I can't remember. I think we actually were at the Ritz, which was, my dad was with the corporate side of McDonald's. He had just left them to kind of represent them on his own. They still covered a lot of what we were doing, but we actually, our first, I just asked you, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't do this as horrible interviewing, but I'm going to kind of jumpstart this, but like our first week in Taipei, my mom got robbed. All her jewelry was stolen, everything. When we got to the hotel, welcome to Taiwan. That was our welcome to Taiwan moment. So, but that was my first experience, and we were like, oh, where do we go from here? So got a lot better, obviously, but yeah, your first week in Taipei, talk to me about that.
Yeah, we stayed at the Grand Hotel, which was amazing. We actually lived there for 3 months.
Wow.
Because my father was a diplomat. Well, you're not a diplomat officially. It's the same with the US because they've recognized mainland China. So like AIT, my father was the director for the Netherlands Foreign Trade Agency, and I think later they changed it to the Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency or that.
Wow,
similar thing. But
see, this is why, I'm sorry, I got to stop you and then I'll be quiet, but this is why this is so cool, because as an American living in Taipei, I knew about AIT, but I had zero idea that it was the same kind of concept for Europeans and Dutch and things like that. So that's kind of cool to hear. So go ahead, man.
Yeah. So they gave us a corner suite in the Grand. I had my own room interconnecting to a living room, a huge living room with a massive balcony with a view over the whole city on one end and the hills behind it. Yeah, it's amazing.
And the American Club right around the corner. Were you guys members? I'm sure you were members, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was also included, indeed. Membership at the American Club. Yeah. My father actually had one of those silver lifetime things when he left.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because my dad had the same. They had a lifetime membership thing. I remember seeing that. So because when my brother and I would go back for Christmases, I don't know if you ever made it back, but we would still get to use those and get the perks of all that and whatnot. So it was kind of a nice little thing to have. It's spoiled rotten, but yeah, nice thing to have. So
so my first experience was the Shilin night market. That was my first Taiwan experience.
Yep.
Which is, talk about an overload, on eyes, ears, nose. It was just wow. You feel like you're on a different planet when you walk through that. Actually, the first thing that really got me was the stopover. We had to do all these stopovers. The flights weren't direct back then. So we did, I don't know, Frankfurt, Athens, Dubai, Bangkok, Taiwan. And I remember getting off the plane in Bangkok, and there was you had to get off and walk the stairs down onto the tarmac.
Yeah.
And it was like you walked into a wall, the heat. I was like,
yeah,
what is this? It's like you can take a knife and carve out a piece.
Yeah. No, it's the humidity, right? Because I remember, I don't remember Taipei so much because I guess I was used to it. But I remember the day my mom, my brother, and my dad was already in Hong Kong. But the day we stepped off that plane, you land in Hong Kong. It's the same thing, Southeast Asia, right? So as soon as and we went in summertime. Which
I know you mentioned that old airport when you go in between the.
Yeah, Kai Tak Airport where you flew through the little apartments.
Amazing.
But I remember the same exact feeling. Like I didn't know where we were going. I was 7 years old. So as long as, like I said, as long as they were kids, I didn't care. I thought, what's the difference between Hong Kong and another state in the States, right? When you're 7 years old, nobody knows. So I remember getting off that plane though, and just being smacked with that humidity. And I don't remember, I didn't remember that until I went back to Shanghai. And because it'd been a long time since I lived in Asia, and we can get into that later.
It's a physical thing, right?
Yeah, you literally walk off the plane. I mean, how many planes? I mean, you and I both combined probably been on thousands of airplanes in our days, right? But I remember getting off that flight from the States to Shanghai and just get that same smack in the face feeling of like, oh, I'm not in the States anymore. Like something's different here. Yeah. But yeah, it smacks you right in the face. So I do remember that. Yeah.
And I just remember. I think I was also amazed at my parents because it was the Sheila Night Market was pretty close to.
Yeah. It was in between TAS, the old TAS. Yeah. And the old TAS and then
and the hotel,
American Club. Yeah.
So I walked to the night market. It was April, so it was hot, but it wasn't like summer yet.
Yeah.
And so I walked there, and I remember having had changed some money and taking my allowance and gotten some extra cash from my dad and having my new Taiwanese dollars in my hand and going to the night market and looking for some music or something like that, and then realizing that cassette tapes were so cheap that I came back with a whole pile on a little Walkman in the hotel. I was like, oh my God, look at all this. I'm like, okay, first adventure, cool.
Yeah.
And I even though it was a shock at first, like all these sights and sounds and smells, I think fairly quickly I felt really at home there. That went very quickly.
No, I totally get that. I'm sure you and I went to the same exact stores. They used to have like a poster store and the food court area where you get all the local Chinese food. And as the years went on, you were probably gone by then, but they actually put in a baseball batting cage, and I'm a huge baseball guy. So that's where you mentioned bringing your allowance down and buying music. I would go and spend my allowance at the batting cages. It was kind of a nice little perk. But yeah, I totally know the Shirley Night Market, man. And it was just, it is what it is. And it's still there. I don't know how long ago you've been back, but it's still there. So it's
1992.
Wow. Okay. So I was still in high school. Not to make you feel old, but I was still. Okay. So let's talk about your European angle then, because as an American, there wasn't a whole lot that I had to really go through. I guess that was one kind of nice perk about starting my TCK experience in a third culture kid. And it's not just an American thing. It's a global thing. No matter where you are, if you're not in your home, passport country, you're considered a third culture kid growing up. So I saw it from a U.S., an American citizen angle. I never really felt threatened. I grew up, 3 years in Hong Kong, which was actually, I've said it a couple of times on the show, but like, I got super lucky because my first experience to Asia was an English speaking. Back then it was under British rule. So there wasn't a whole lot to acclimate to. There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was still Asia. It was very different, but English speaking, most people that I knew were in my same exact position. What was it like being a European moving to Asia? Did you see any difference? I mean, were you just from that angle, what was it like? I mean, not only were you European, but you went to an American school. So did you have any transition wise? Like how did that go about? Was it easy? Was it hard? Was it complicated? What?
No, it was really easy. The strange thing was I arrived in April. So I went to school towards the end of my sophomore year.
Okay.
And I met people the first day of school. And I was still at the Grand Hotel, so the school bus would pick me up there and take me to school. And I remember being outside the cafeteria when they had showed me around. I was just walking around and meeting some people, and they were so welcoming that I started talking to some people. And I think I'd been in school less than 2 weeks before they were getting ready for spring break, and they said, "Oh, we're going to Kenting. Do you want to join?"
Yeah.
I had just gotten there.
Let me stop you real quick. Just so those of you that have no idea what we're talking about, Kenting was at the very southern tip of Taipei. It's more of a resort area. It's beaches there, gorgeous area. Just so we all are.
Well, it wasn't much of a resort back then.
Okay. Because by my senior year, it was. So maybe you're, like I said, you're a little bit older. So yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I think there was during my high school years. Indeed, they built that first major, massive hotel. Before that, it was all very. It was a small town where we would usually stay, like even further on the tip, Olambi, a really small little town, and we'd be in a small little, very small hotel. But I just thought it was amazing that I just met these people and they were asking me to come along on a holiday with them. And luckily my parents were quite cool about it and said, yeah, all for it. Go for it.
I got a name drop. Do you remember the names of the people that you went down to Kenting with?
I think one of the very first people I met was Stefan Bowie.
Yeah.
Swiss.
I knew him.
Yeah. So, we started talking, and then they were heading down that way, and so.
Did you primarily feel more comfortable hanging out with other Europeans, or how did that?
No, I was equal opportunity. As long as people were friendly and I had a connection with them, I don't care where they're from.
That's one thing. It's funny you say that, because I do remember moving to Taipei terrified, because I, spent my seventh. I think I left Hong Kong when I was 10, but I had established so many close friends. And it's funny. My wife and I were actually talking about this. 3 years is nothing. We were in Hong Kong for 3 years. I mean, 3 years goes like that now, right? So, but when you're 7, 3 years might as well be 10 years. And you think that it's like a lifetime in 3 years, but it wasn't. So, getting to Taipei, I was terrified. Like, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with you. But I just remember TAS specifically being so welcoming. Even when we went for a look-see and all that stuff, it was just so welcoming. And it's the same kind of, I mean, you were older, you were in high school, I was in middle school, but it was just so welcoming. So that's kind of cool to hear that everybody, it wasn't just me, it wasn't just my story, it was your story as well. So
people were super friendly, and I quickly became really good friends with Stefan Geronimi. Mm-hmm. We quickly became really good friends, and he'd been living there for a very long time. He knew his way around. He showed me around. We went out together at Bar Alley and things like that. Hop into cabs, play pool, go to the American Club, and be free to roam the city. Which is, when you think about it, it's a huge city, but it was like our little playground. I felt very comfortable there, and I loved the fact that we would go out and I'd speak English with one person. I'd speak German. I'd speak French. I started to learn a little bit of Chinese. I can get around in Mandarin, and because I like languages, I have an ear for languages. So my pronunciation so I've been told, is pretty good. So, I just love that international vibe. And I guess that also explains why I've been doing that for work for all these international companies with all these different nationalities, because that's what I like and what I know.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. How's your Chinese these days?
I think it's still there. 我会中国话，所以我在台湾做了4年。
Wow, your tone is even good, man. You got the buppa muffa down. That's impressive. Impressive for a guy who's been back since '92. That's impressive. So,
I like languages.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So, we could probably spend the next hour talking about Taipei, and just the people of in Taiwan and TAS and I would love to do that, but I want to kind of keep this moving a little bit. Yep. Let's talk about now. So from Taipei, you went back to Holland, and then you ended up back in Taiwan.
Yeah. So
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You had a follow up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the biggest thing since I've been doing these interviews, and it's so funny because I used to think it was just me, and I think that's one nice thing about doing these interviews. It's almost, I think I've mentioned this a couple of times, it's almost been therapeutic in the fact that I always thought I was different in how I thought when I came back to the States. I thought I was such an outcast. I thought people don't understand me, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was just me because it seemed like, I mean, this is pre-Facebook, this is pre-Instagram, things like that. But every time I talked to another TCK or people I grew up with, they were doing fine. No, were they doing fine? Who knows? Everybody puts up a front, right? So, but I just always thought it was me. I thought I struggled. The psyche of being a TCK is such an interesting concept. You're a global citizen, much less than your natural citizen, right? So, but the acclimation back to the States for me personally, I looked the part. I'm 6'2". I played baseball. I did everything I always wanted to do, but no one truly understood me.
Mhm.
How was, as a European, I know you went from Taiwan to Europe back to Taiwan, but let's talk about that first year back in Europe once you left Taipei. What was that like?
I think it was really hard, and I think it was because the weird thing is in Taiwan, because everybody's, and that was also featured earlier in your shows, is that people come and go, so you learn very quickly to make friends because you don't know how long they're going to be there, and if you have a good connection, let's not waste 5 months in getting to know each other slowly better. No, let's just hang out and that's it.
That's an awesome point, by the way. Yeah. Go ahead.
So at first. So the kind of weird thing is, like, every year I would probably have another best friend or people I would hang out with because the group kept changing. So at first it was Stefan, and then Andreas. I don't know if Andreas Pechner came.
Yeah.
And I then afterwards.
By the way, I was terrified to talk to all you guys because I was like in 7th and 8th grade, but you were all high school, like the big high schooler. So yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. And then Olivier Plagnol, and of course, his sister Christelle was my girlfriend for 2 years. So yeah, and then I was the last graduating class in the old campus, but because I did my postgraduate for the IB, I was also in the new school. So I got to experience both campuses. In the new school, I started hanging out a lot with your brother and Nick and Leif and Mark and those guys.
By the way, I hate to break it to you, brother, but like the new campus is 30 plus years old. But go ahead.
I know. But for me, it was the old and new campus. I know.
Yeah.
So, and then the weird thing is, you're not prepared for the leaving moment. It went so fast because I'm like, there was all this stuff to do. There's IB stuff and okay. And my parents are planning their retirement because my dad was going to retire. They moved to the south of France, and they're like, we were living in Yamenshan, and before you know it, the house is packed up. And it's like, but I still need to say goodbye to people. Oh wait, I need to get on a plane because I've got an entrance exam for an art school. And then before you know it, you're on a plane back to the Netherlands. I stayed at my aunt's house until I could find out if I got accepted or not into art school. So I went and showed my portfolio. My parents had moved to the south of France, and it hadn't hit me yet. I'm just like cool, and I'm showing my art, and I've seen my family, my friends who I haven't seen for a while. My parents moved to south of France, so I spent the summer there. I got accepted, great. So now I can party all summer long, knowing that I've got a gig coming up in the fall.
Yeah.
And then you have to find an apartment, and life starts in the Netherlands. Did I feel confused? I didn't feel Dutch anymore. There was a lot of things that confused me.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
There was a lot of things that happened, and I was so far. Taiwan was another planet back in those days, man. I could have been on some planet far away. I came back, and I'm like asking about friends that I haven't talked to or heard of, and I'm like, hey, how's he doing? And then you find out, oh, wait, sit down. I'm actually going to have to tell you something, but he's dead. It's like you've been away for so long.
Wait, when you get back to Holland.
Yeah, one of my buddies apparently, had killed himself, had stepped in front of a train, and it's like, you're going out because you're reconnecting, and then you hear that this has happened, several months before, but nobody thought to write that to you because you didn't really keep in touch. High school, and you move, and and it's like, oh man, I've really missed out on a lot of things, and I see all these people have formed friendships, and I'm now in a city I've never lived in. I'm going to a new school where a lot of people still have their old friends, and they're all going home for the weekend or going to see their friends, and I'm suddenly in an apartment by myself, feeling very homesick for Taiwan, extremely homesick for Taiwan, because it was probably the best time of my life at that point. My girlfriend is still in Taiwan, so I'm feeling extremely miserable.
I went through that, just so you know. I went through that too. Yeah.
So I mean, it was old school, so I've never written that many letters as that year I was in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I would try to write several pages each night of what was going on, what I was feeling. I made cassette tapes and spoke on them with music that I liked and sent it back to him so she could hear my voice. And it was nuts. And then she came over for Christmas to the south of France. She was not allowed to come visit me in the Netherlands, but she was allowed to come to my parents' house in the south of France.
Okay.
My parents were quite cool about it, and they were like, you know what, we're going to rent the neighbor's place, so you're going to have the place to yourself over there.
So I'm going to be nosy here. I don't need names. You don't need a name drop. But was it a Taiwan girl, or was it someone that went to TAS? Who was?
Christelle.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We were. Yeah, she was my first love. I mean, 2 years and madly in love.
I get it, man. I get it. So you ended up going back to Taipei, right? After Holland, so you were for a year.
Several things happened. I was in graphic design. I went to a school where you had to pick your major immediately. So I went for graphic design also because I didn't know, and my dad was like, "It touches upon a lot of things, and you're going to be able to make some money in it." But it turned out to be very technical and very much about the design of lettering and all these kind of things. That wasn't really my thing. Actually, I enjoyed the photography part the most of all of it. So that was one aspect. Then the people that I rented the place from were teachers, and they were in Japan, and they suddenly came back. So I was without a place to live, and my girlfriend was still in another country. I'm like, all those things together, and I was feeling so homesick for Taiwan that I said, that's it. I'm going back to Taiwan. So in March, it was 3 days after my birthday. In March of 91, I flew back to Taiwan with some cash, and I was going to stay at her place. Didn't exactly go as planned. There were some complications there on the love front. Without getting into detail, it's not important anymore, but I ended up staying at another friend's place. Rebecca Diedrichs was kind enough to take me in. Yeah,
I remember Rebecca.
We were close. She was kind enough to take me in, her and her roommate, Kyra, which was really cool. And then I sort of found my way and started making some money by teaching kids stuff and all this kind of thing. I did some commercials, some movies. I was a bodyguard for a drug dealer in a kung fu movie. That was filmed at this really weird, creepy place where they had built apartment houses that looked like UFOs. I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures. It's a famous landmark now. They built them in the 70s as really cool apartments, and then it never happened, and it just became derelict and graffitied, and it was like a really weird setting for a movie. But I did that, and then finally I got it into bartending at my local hangout. Brian was already behind the bar. Brian Langston was already behind the bar, and he and the owner were like, "Hey, you're always here. You might as well make some money." And I started bartending, and then that's when I was hanging out a lot with your brother during those days, and they were playing in this group of friends, playing in a band, the Wavoers, which is a lot of fun. And Leif was both a guitar player and a drummer, so he couldn't do both at the same time. I sucked at bass. At least on drums, I could try and hold a beat, and they would I couldn't come into a song, so every song started with "Go Alex," and I would just go, and then they would join in. I've got some cassette tapes of me playing horribly, but it was so much fun.
That's awesome, man. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because I just remember it's so when you started talking about the concept of looking the way we do. My brother and I ended up in so many this is so. It's not embarrassing, but it's just what it was. They wanted like the American looking or the European looking guys or the girls to do the modeling things. And it's just, I think as soon as you started talking about the film thing and all that stuff, I was like, oh, yep. Cause I remember totally they were so cheesy. One was like a little flick football thing that my brother and I were doing, got paid great. And I actually did an English translation thing, got paid. I was 9th grade, making a lot of money doing nothing And here I was like, I felt famous, you know, and yet I wasn't, but it was just, I get it totally. As soon as you said that, my brain went right back to that moment. So
they would walk up to you in a bar and go, hey, you know, are you interested in doing, you know, I've done BMX bikes and chocolate and I don't know, such a crazy stuff.
We were in taxis. I even had a taxi guy ask me, and I thought it was complete crap. And then we gave all the information to my parents. They called, but we had a driver at the time, and he spoke Chinese fluently, and so obviously he was local. But he checked it out, and it was legit. And all of a sudden, here I am with like a whole lot of cash. Like, wow, this is too easy, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I get it, man. And we're not the only ones. You and I both can say that we're not the only ones. That happened a lot with a lot of people over there. So the year I was there by myself, I think it was really good for me because obviously the years with my parents were very protective, international environment. We had, you know, the house, the money, all that. The second time I was there, I was on my own. My parents were retired. They're like, hey, yes, I was a diplomat. The lifestyle is great. The money's not so great. You're a civil servant, so they pay a lot for you, but you're not making the big money. So they're like, our money's in the house, so that's paid off. That's where we're going to live, and we'll be cool. But you're on your own. I think it was a really good lesson for me to study or to live that year in Taipei by myself. Had to find an apartment. Had to find a job. How old were you?
I was 20.
Okay.
And so I did the bartending thing. Then a guy came in and said, I'm opening up a cocktail bar, looking for someone. I like how you're doing things. Here's what I would pay you. I was like, oh, that's twice what I'm making now. Okay. That sounds like a lot of fun, but I don't know how to make any cocktails. Yeah. I'll teach you. So here I am in a cocktail bar in Taipei, and he's teaching me how to make all these cocktails. And the next thing I know, a few months later, he gets asked to be a manager of a nightclub. He says, I can't, I have a contract here, but why don't you take Alexander here? He'd be amazing at it, and you should ask him. And they did. And here I am at 20, running a nightclub in Taipei.
What was the club? What was the club? Do you remember?
Sky.
Yeah. I remember that. So that's wow. And then you ended up back in Holland, right?
Yeah.
After that, so you ended up back in Holland.
I think it was also there were several things that prompted me to do that. One was living as a vampire. I was working six nights a week. I would see the sun coming up when I was driving on my motorcycle home and I would see the sun go down in the evening. That's about it. I was like poster boy for vampire. It's like, very pale, leather jacket, motorcycle, and living at night. And then the night you're off, like a Monday or Tuesday night, I would go out to check out the other places. So yeah, you're always partying, you're always out. And I was like, it's not constructive and not very healthy. Plus, I didn't exactly have a working permit in Taiwan.
Oh yeah, underground.
Yeah. Luckily, I had a Chinese friend who vouched for me and said, "No, I've provided for him. He's been here." So I think I had to pay a penalty of, I don't know, it was I think 1,000 NT, and don't come back for a year, bad boy.
Which is nothing. If you, the grand scheme of things, that's nothing, right? So yeah. So let's let me ask you this: what do you miss the most about that lifestyle? What do you miss the most about Taipei?
Everything. I mean, I love the whole thing, really. But I think very important for me were the people that were there. They made that experience even more special because I got to share it with some amazing people.
Do you still talk to people from your Taipei days? Or good.
Yeah. I've seen a few. A few people have passed through here. I've seen some people. I went for work. I've been to the US a few times for work. I saw Andreas in California. Andreas Fischer. Nice. I saw Stefan Hieronymi when I was living in the UK.
Yeah, Andreas' sister was my age, so they left. They before we graduated. I think they left before. But yeah, go ahead.
I saw Sandra Midler in Amsterdam when she was here with her daughter going to a concert.
Nice.
I saw Suzanne Holterhoff came and was stranded here on her way to Germany with her husband, and I picked them up at their hotel, and they were going to fly on the next day, and they actually came and we sat in the garden, had a salad, and chatted all night long. It was amazing. It was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, man, that's awesome. So I love hearing those stories. I love it because I mean, like I said, this whole concept of the show, I just was bored, and I got to interview myself, and I thought, wow, that'd be kind of cool to reconnect with people. But these are the stories that I love because it hits home to me, and they're not necessarily stories that people around me currently understand, but it's home, man. I get it totally.
So what did I miss? The food. Oh man, the jiaozi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. The food at the club, the beef noodle at the club, man, I would kill for. So, yeah.
Or even the Mongolian barbecue.
Oh yeah, which isn't there anymore. I hate to break it to you, man. That's not there anymore. But yeah, I would live at that place, man. It was like an every Friday night we go there and then we go out. So I totally get that.
The whole going out. It was the one place I think where I could go out at night by myself, knowing I would have an amazing night, even though I went out by myself. And that's one of the things, and we'll get to that in just a sec, how that was in the Netherlands. But I would go out and see somebody, okay, he's not from Taiwan. So the first question is, hey, where are you from? How long have you been here?
Yeah.
Would you like a drink? And you sit and you chat and you have an amazing evening meeting somebody really cool. I've had people that crashed at my house that didn't have a place to stay. I've met people in the middle of the night who said, oh, but actually are you guys hungry? Oh, okay, come on. And we're like, where is he taking us? It's okay. And then he opens up a restaurant and goes, well, I'm the owner. This is my chef. How about some lobster?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, 1 a.m. in the middle of the night. You're all have been drinking, and he's opening up his restaurant. And before you know it, you're sitting there with bottles of champagne and lobster in the middle of the night of a guy you just met, half hour before. It's like,
don't forget you're 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
So the whole meeting people from all over, like I said, conversations in different languages, meeting people from all over. Amazing. Truly amazing. So that the local people as well have been so friendly, especially if you speak a little Chinese or you make the effort.
Yep.
I found that a lot of people did speak English.
They wanted to. They wanted to understand. They wanted. Yeah. Taxi drivers wanted to always speak to me in English, and I was trying to think that I spoke Chinese. Yeah, it was always a back and forth thing. So yeah, I totally get that.
And one of my fondest memories is always having a cassette tape in my jeans jacket to say to the guy, can you play my music? And they'd be like, yeah, of course. And then having to remember not to leave the cassette behind.
Yeah. Well, I can do you one better on that. I remember asking them to change from the Taiwan opera songs, right, that would play in the taxis to ICRT. Remember ICRT?
Yeah.
Hey, AM Uchi Leo. Remember when ICRT got that AM station? It was like the big thing. But I remember totally, man. I get it. Oh, this makes me happy. Yeah. I appreciate that. So yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, that the people there as well. So it wasn't just that we were outsiders who had their own little thing going. The interaction was there a lot with local people. And I think it's one, because they're an island nation. So they're used to having to be more outgoing in order to meet people. Mm-hmm. They don't have any really like oil or those kind of things. So they have to be a trading nation. So there's a lot of interaction with other countries as well. So they're generally interested in other people. So if you're traveling on a bus or on a train throughout the country, people will come up to you and speak. Well, they'll not just speak to you, but they'll also touch you. And, girls would pull my hair. They would look and like, oh my God, he's so big. I mean, everybody's up to here in Taiwan. Yeah.
I'm 6'2", man. I trust me. I get it. Yeah.
Blonde hair at the time, blue eyes. I totally stood out and they would just, girls would giggle like this, and then they pull your hair and touch you, and then they want pictures with you, and they all be like standing next to you going, yeah. They were very friendly. I've been invited to weddings. I've been at a Taiwanese funeral. They were just so welcoming and always happy to show us their country and show us their culture. Yeah, it was amazing.
They're proud people, as they should be. That was always awesome. So
coming back to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Oh God, you say to somebody, hey, how you doing? Where are you from? They're like, who are you? What are you talking to me for? I'm with my friends here. Get away from me.
Yeah.
Complete culture shock. Again, it didn't help. I went to study photography in a different city, now in the south of the Netherlands, like 2 hours away from where I was previously living. And it also probably didn't help that I met my girlfriend who was doing the same class on the first day, and we hooked up on the second day, and we moved in together during our studies because we were always up doing our artwork together, and we sort of moved in together pretty much right away. And then when after school, we sort of were planning to move back to the town where she was from, and then she decided to redo that year anyway, and she went back. And obviously that didn't help the relationship much. So I was now in again another city that I didn't know anybody, and
yet you're home.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be very comfortable there.
Yeah,
I was clueless. I didn't know the Dutch music that had happened in the time. I didn't know any of the TV shows. I didn't know what was going on in sports. I had no clue. What helped is, while we were living in the other city before moving there, my girlfriend said, "You should meet my sister's boyfriend. He's like you. He also lived in Asia, and I think you guys would click." And we met at a party. We never left the bar. The two of us sat at the bar talking all night about our experiences, and we've been best friends ever since.
That's awesome.
He was best man at my wedding. I went to his wedding in Dubai, where he's now living. We even went on a holiday together with our families. So our friendship has been since 92 until now. And he went through exactly the same thing. And that was, for me, a lifesaver to have somebody that got me.
Totally. It's just a situation you explain yourself, but you truly don't have to. They get it, right? They get it without even prying.
The things you were saying earlier about when you say Taiwan, people are like, oh yeah, California. For me, it was very similar. Like even when I said I'm from Holland, they're like, oh yeah, Michigan. Oh wait, Holland, the Netherlands. I have no idea where is that. Or I go, yeah, I'm from Amsterdam area. Denmark. These kind of things. And then the same was with Taiwan. People know everybody's confusing it. They go, oh, Thailand. Yeah, cool. I've been there.
Oh yeah.
Not that one. No.
Yeah. How is Bangkok, by the way?
Yeah.
I got that totally. So
it was confusing, and he got me, I got him, so we became best friends, and that really helped. He already had been back a few years, so he knew a lot of people. He was in student lifestyle. I was just starting to work, but it was nothing serious yet, so I had enough free time in between to still party like a student. And I started feeling at home there. I ended up living 12 years in the city, but I moved around a number of times from different places till from a really small one-room place to a little bit bigger room, then to ended up moving in with a girlfriend. We had an apartment. When we split up, I moved to the apartment below that. And finally, I bought a house thinking, that's it. I'm going to stay here now for a while. I'm settling in a little bit again. And then the company, in 1 year, my whole world was turned upside down. Mm-hmm. The company I've been working for 6 years and felt like perfect fit said, by the way, we're relocating to Ireland in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
And I just bought a house, and I'm like, no, this is not the right time for me to move again. So I had to start I found a new job. I just started the new job. Then my relationship ended because I found out my girlfriend was not being faithful to me. So that ended. And then my dad passed away suddenly. So when you're talking about, family, relationship, and job, all three of those fell away in a short time.
Wow.
Dark days.
Yeah, man. I didn't even know that about your dad till we talked prior to going on air, but my condolences, and I wish I had no idea what you were going through and still go through, but I do, man. So my condolences to you and yours. So
that was rough, especially because they were living abroad as well. So I felt really that I couldn't be there enough for my mom.
Where were they?
They had moved to the south of France when they retired. So they've been living in the south of France since 1990. My dad passed away in 2002. I mean, he was 78 or 77. So it's not like he was really young, but he was very fit and healthy, and, played 18 holes of golf twice a week, and it's very active, and, was a president in the Rotary, and he was doing this, he was teaching English, and he was very active.
You said heart attack? Is that right?
Yeah. Where he'd never had a problem with his heart his whole life.
I wish I could say I had no idea what you're talking about, but I get it, man. So
And I didn't even make it to the south of France quick enough because so I planned to go back, and then my mom was like, "Well, he's okay, and let's see how this goes." And then she said, "Oh, it's all good. He gets to go home tomorrow." So we were thinking, okay, good. We've had a scare, but he's all right. He got up that morning to brush his teeth, and he collapsed, and they couldn't revive him anymore. And my mom was like, "It's for him. It was probably better. For us, it was like a shock because it's so sudden. But for him, it's probably better because they said if we had been able to bring him back, he would have not been the way he was before, physically able to do everything. And it's like that would have been a lifestyle for such an active guy." So, but yeah, and I wasn't ready to lose. Nobody's ever ready for it. But when they're, if they're really old and they've been around for a long time and or health is not good, or you can be a little bit more prepared. Then I wasn't prepared. And yeah, that my mom was by herself in the south of France. But she thought about coming back to the Netherlands, and she's like, "I would because of you." But she says, "For me, I've got my friends here. I've been living here for 22 years. I've got everybody here. I've got my support system." So it was hard for me not being able to be with her, but she was better off there, I think, than in the Netherlands. So.
I don't know what to say, man. Like it's listening to my own story. So I totally get that. Unfortunately, my dad was in Singapore by himself, shutting down his business, and the rest of us were back here in the States. So same kind of thing, just a fluke thing that happened, and life changes forever. So I totally understand, man. And I wish I didn't understand, but I do. And my condolences, man. And then you and I were talking about this, and not to kind of make you feel even worse or bring up a worse situation. But then your mom ended up, if I remember right, with breast cancer, and then
she beat that first time around. So there's a lot of, it seems like there was some really important things that all happened together. I got married in 2005 to also a TAS alumni, Cecile Alix.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I knew. Yeah, really? I didn't know that. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I knew her. Well. Yeah, I knew her.
Yeah, she was my girlfriend in high school, like when I was very young, when I first got there. We reconnected. Became emails, became phone calls, became
French, right?
Yeah. She was French by nationality, but never lived in France. She grew up in Miami and in Taipei.
There you go. Welcome to TCK land. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously we got each other. So we picked it right back up again, and we got married in the south of France in 2005. But at the same time, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So yeah, very mixed emotions. It was rough. We moved to the UK because it was a neutral country. We figured it's probably not good to live in the Netherlands where everything's in Dutch. Cecile does speak, so we moved to the UK, lived there for 2 years. My mom got better. In the end, Cecile, we got divorced. Didn't work out in the long run. She had some things that just couldn't deal with. I think a little bit tough, and it's difficult. I always thought if you love each other, you can get through anything. But yeah, that wasn't true. So it wasn't that we didn't love each other; it just didn't work out. But I happily married now. I met my wife on a ski trip,
which I want to get into.
Yeah.
But
all right. Luckily, my mom got to see my wedding. She got to meet her grandson Jasper, and she was so excited that she had a grandson, because she kept telling me every time she talked about it, she was like, "Finally, I have a grandson now. Finally." Yeah, I got that.
I get that still. So I get that. Yeah.
That will never go away. And then she said, okay, she moved back to the Netherlands because she wanted to be near her grandson. She's like, I don't want to see him once a year. I want to spend time with him. So she moved back to the Netherlands, found an amazing apartment about half hour away from us. She has her sister still here who'd lost her husband. So they were, getting really close, doing things together, helping each other. They had this whole plan of living in the Netherlands in the summer and then spending the winters in the south of France, and doing this whole thing together and traveling, and unfortunately, breast cancer came back. Didn't realize it was breast cancer, that cancer had come back, but it spread so quickly everywhere. And my aunt and I took care of my mom until the end at home. I was there when she had her last breath. She had made peace with everything. She had a good life, so she was okay with it. She was 78. I think she could have had a lot of more good years, but it did happen. And for me, the saddest part was that she didn't get to see her grandson at a little bit older age, and that he would remember her better.
Right.
I'm trying to keep her memory alive by showing lots of photos, talking about her, and especially showing photos. We've got photo albums of my parents' life and my life up to now, and showing that to my son frequently, so we talk about her all the time. So that's good.
No, that's awesome. And I see it and I hear it in your voice. But what a remarkable life they gave you too, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing about TCKs. We're so complicated in so many ways, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're so blessed to have this life that we could say what an experience, right? And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen without those parents.
I'm grateful. I feel truly grateful for those experiences, and that I got to grow up on 3 continents and experience all that with. The positives and the negatives. They're it's never 100%.
Well, you just brought up my next question. What are the positives and negatives? And if you could give some advice to those currently European living in maybe Asia or maybe somewhere else, what kind of advice could you give to current TCKs or maybe possibly TCKs?
So the good things are all those experiences, right? Go out and experience life to the fullest there, and see the place that you live in, meet the people, experience it. Have the foods, experience it, try it, and really suck everything out of life there, because it's an amazing experience. You'll treasure it the rest of your life. I think one of the things, if I look back now, but I think I was 17 through 20, probably also the age I was partying a lot.
Yeah.
I like
we all were. Yeah, we all were. So
So I probably, if looking back, it's like, okay, maybe I could have done more travel, more culture, more experiences, things, but it's the age. But I would say try to find a blend of everything. So those are the positives, that you get to experience something unique that will help shape and form you in who you are. I think we were very lucky with a school like Taipei American School that was just amazing and had these amazing facilities and teachers and people, and so that definitely added to the positives of the experience. And I'll treasure those years there were huge for me. 17 through 21 in Taipei were foundation for who I am as a person. The negatives would be you have to say goodbye a lot.
Yeah.
And that's tough. I've had to say goodbye to some really good friends. It's easier now to keep in touch, and I'm so happy for tools like Facebook and where we can, catch up. And at least, even if I don't speak to those people, I get to see parts of their lives, see how they're doing, exchange a comment here and there. And if we would meet up, it'd be like, a year or two has passed.
It is. I mean, I got married last year, and so many people that came out to the wedding, it's like no time has ever even passed. You know what I mean? That's what the beauty is. It's a blessing and a curse, the way I always view it, because, it's no time has ever passed. These are still the most, I haven't seen some of these people in 20 plus years, but they're still so connected to who I am at the core. Right. And I'm sure it's the same way for you. So.
Yeah. Like the people I've met up with, it was, you go through what have you been up to and family and, these kind of things to hear what they've been doing. But it's so easy to pick up again and talk about things, and it feels like no time really has passed. But I have the same with my buddy in Arne, who lives in Dubai, and he lived in Singapore, and he grew up in Kuala Lumpur and Jakarta. Okay. We're both people who don't need to reach out every other week. We speak each other maybe once 3-6 months, but when we see each other, it's like it was last week. We pick it right up.
Get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that.
But
and you brought up
goodbye is hard all the time.
you think it get easier, right? But it doesn't.
No.
You know,
Okay,
and that's the one. If there was a constant of being a TCK that was brutal and yet you accepted it, but you never really did, it was the concept of saying goodbye so much, right?
Yeah.
You got used to it, but it never became a part of you because you did, and yet it did because that's the one constant, right? So it's that goodbye topic.
And there are new people that, you know, like I said, I had different friends throughout different phases. Like in the last 2 years, my postgraduate year and the year I came back by myself, I spent a lot of time, with your brother, and that was amazing. Some of the I have so many fond memories of that time. You know, sitting on the power tower behind the old school campus, overlooking the river, with an old battered guitar case filled with ice and ice cubes and beer. Amazing memories. Playing
power. Sorry, you said power tower, and that just blew my mind. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So go ahead.
Or going to Tianmu Park and hanging out.
Yep.
You know, all these things, and yet they were completely different people than from the first year I was there or the second. So your group of friends shifts. I think it was harder for me going back to Europe because a lot of people went to the States.
Yeah.
And that back then, pre-internet, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
And especially when you move around as much as I have, even during my student times as well. You perhaps send a postcard with, or a letter with your new address, but then you move again and the other person has moved, and at some point you lose track. So for that, Facebook, I'm thankful that, you with all these people again.
Facebook and Instagram are fantastic methods of reconnecting, no matter who you are. But I think especially for people who grew up the way we did, what a treat, politics aside and whatever you think of each one. But it's been a blessing to be able to connect with people you haven't talked to in 20 years. So I totally
amazing.
Yeah. So let's move on here real quick. So I want to talk about, and you've already alluded to this in the conversations you and I have had off the screen here, but sounds like your proudest accomplishment more than anything is being a family man. And I think that's awesome, man. So I thought I didn't obviously know you that well, but everybody's kind of got a story how they met their significant other. And right now you're married to, sounds like a fantastic lady. And I want the people here to hear the story because we haven't really talked about it much. And I was going to get into that, but you're very humble. And that's one thing I always like about, I think a lot of TCKs are, but you especially. We haven't really talked about your skiing yet, and I want to get into that. But it sounds like you met your wife on a ski trip. Is that right?
Yep.
Go ahead and tell us the details of that, man.
So it's actually a really cool concept. It was a single trip, 40 guys, 40 girls.
Oh, wow.
All with some similarities to what they tried to do is like a certain level of education, and it wasn't just anything. So they tried to mix it so that it's a good group of friends. People that could become friends or more. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about it is, you don't have all the couples sneaking away because it's all singles, and they're all going to go to the bar or something to have fun and meet each other and socialize. So you get this really nice vibe of people that are all there to have a good time, but also there to meet other people. So I've made some really good friends. Like one of the best. Right. You have two witnesses at your wedding here. The other one I met on a ski trip like that previously. A really good guy. We're friends, buddies on there. But he actually started talking to my wife, Anouk. And the first question he asked her, I think, was, where were you born? It's a city in the Netherlands. And the second was, where did you grow up? And she went, well, I grew up in Brazil and Taiwan. And he was like, well, wait, Anouk, Alexander, Anouk, Taiwan. And he walked off. Wingman.
Yeah. Taiwan? Really?
Taiwan? I'm like, wait, Taiwan? Yeah. I lived there. Me too. Okay, here we are on the mountain in a lodge in Austria, and you meet a girl who's lived in Taiwan. So I asked her, and so her dad had worked for one of the like petrochemical or something like that, or steel, or something in that direction. And was an engineer, and they spent in the 70s several years in and I think it was Taichung actually.
Okay.
And so she knew Taiwan. I mean, she was very small.
Where did she go to school? Did she go to Morrison?
No, it was. I think her brother was actually born there, and I think she was 1.5 or something. Yeah.
Okay. Still, Still though, that's
Or-
pretty wild.
No, I think it's, or maybe 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Yeah, but she was very young, and so it was actually before we were there. She's 5 years younger than me, close to your age.
Just a kid. It's just a kid, right?
Yeah, and so so it's like, okay, yeah. So so that's how we met, and we started talking there. 2 nights later, hey, you meet people. So I met a bunch of different girls, but of course the Taiwan thing stuck in my mind. A couple of nights later, it was Monday night, and it was going to be my birthday on Tuesday. So I had some people that I knew from a previous trip, so I knew some of the people there, which was kind of cool. So I had a little group already, and they were going to celebrate my birthday. I'd arranged a bottle of champagne and some little fun gifts and stuff. So we were just sort of chilling, waiting for midnight to come. Well, she was at the bar. Her roommate went up to the room, and she was about to go back to the hotel room when they said, "Hey, we're about to celebrate his birthday. You want to join?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." And so she joined the party, and the two of us got thrown out of the bar at 3 a.m. as the last 2 people there. And that was that. We skipped the whole dating thing because we spent a week on holiday together. I think the first night we were back, she came to Amsterdam. She lived a half hour away. The first night she came to Amsterdam, went back that night, and the next weekend she came again and never left.
And now you have Jasper, right?
Yeah.
So
he was born in 2013. So we got married, and then he was born same year. So he's turning 7 this summer.
That's awesome, man.
So
is he a skier too, or what's the deal there?
Yeah. I have a video of me on my phone following him at the end of our first real week of skiing with him.
Nice.
He just had classes only doing like what they call pizza. So like you have to do the little V and
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And so at the end of the week, he wanted to do something more. So we took him up to a little bit more of a slope. And I'm like, okay, follow mom and I'll go behind and film. And he's like, no, I don't want to follow mom. And he started just making turns all the way down. I was like, they didn't even teach you that. Where's this coming from? I was like, and I was just filming him going down, going, oh my God, this is so cool. Yeah.
Does he understand how mom and dad grew up? I mean, it sounds like your wife kind of grew up at TTG. Okay. Has that been brought up to him? Does he?
Yeah, I've shown him pictures, and for him, it's just kind of cool to see where dad lived and all that. But I don't think it sinks in that it's another country.
Doesn't get it yet. He's pretty young. I mean, and then you think about that. That's exactly the age I was when I moved overseas. So that's pretty wild. So,
see, he likes skiing. My wife obviously likes skiing because we went on a ski trip. So yeah, skiing has brought me good things too.
That's awesome, man. And you were a world-class skier, still probably are. I mean, you'll have to get out to Utah sometime because we have, the Olympics in 2002 are here. So, and I'm not that far away. So you're always welcome to come on out here, man. So, couple more things. We talked about skiing and the fact that your connection to that sport. You're also, like I told you when we started this, I always remember you as a soccer guy. Maybe that's just a European thing. I remember watching you play soccer at TAS. And then you talked about tennis. So hobby-wise, you're still very active, it sounds like, which is awesome. And then I don't want to sell you short on the art side of things, because in my head, I always remember you as a guy that did both. And you were kind of the patriarch of doing that. It was always either you were a sports guy or you were an art guy, and yet you were able to blend those two things. And you saw someone like myself who was younger than you saw that was maybe possible. I never really got into the art side of it. I stuck with the sports side of it. But getting back to that, it sounds like your artistic skills these days, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's been going on a while, but photography, how'd you get into that, and what's the story there? So
I think, first of all, I never felt that I had to be one thing. I don't like the pigeonhole thing. I was like, awesome. I like both. So, and actually, I liked other things as well. I did, because I also did psychology I did IB psychology, Miss Wanger, which was amazing. And I did the peer counseling program. So I was a peer counselor and a big brother in TS as well.
By the way, so did I. After you all left it, we were the next generation to come into that. So that's cool. So,
so I like that side, and I think it shows in my job as well, because I'm in IT and I've had quite technical roles. Yet I'm not an engineer or a programmer. I'm more of a communications guy, really. But I was able to blend those two as well. And they're like, okay, it's rare that we have somebody who, can help us technically and do the troubleshooting and that kind of thing, but at the same time can communicate what he's doing, because it's either or usually.
Right.
The hardest thing to find in IT is tech guys who can also still communicate to customers.
Yeah, especially in four languages. Yeah.
Well, that's actually, I got my break because I spoke the 4 languages they were doing support in. And I didn't know that much about computers, but they said, we can teach you something about our products, not the 4 languages.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
But I got into photography and art around the same time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one, I was already taking pictures. My dad liked photography, so I grew up with a paparazzi around me.
Yeah.
Same as my son is saying now, Dad's always taking pictures. So yeah, history repeats itself. He was always doing that, and he actually gave me his old camera when I was 11. So I had taken my first, black and white film roll camera shots at age 11. They were pretty crappy, but I got started.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of pictures during high school. People are always saying, because I like posting pictures on people's Facebook for their birthday. Like if I have it, a picture of us together back then.
Yeah, that's
or
awesome.
A picture of them back then. If I don't have pictures together, because I didn't think about it that far ahead, right? So, but I took lots of pictures. I think also because I realized that I wasn't going to be there forever, and people were continuously leaving. Like, I better get a picture before they're gone. So I started getting in the habit of taking lots of pictures and always having a camera with me. So I've got loads of pictures from Taiwan. And like, I have an iMac with like 25,000 photos on it because I keep taking pictures.
Yeah.
Now it's really easy digital too. You just shoot. But I took photography in high school.
With Mr. Bublitz? Was it Bublitz?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And I had advanced studio art with Mr. Wanger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what a program. I got to do art, photography, and psychology in my postgrad year, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into photography. So I went to art school. I did photography, but I didn't want to become a wedding photographer or run my own. I didn't want to do advertising. I wanted to do art photography.
Yeah.
But yeah, you either need a really lucky break or you need to be so freaking talented that there's no denying it. It's hard to make a living in that. And I didn't want to have it become something that would take away for me, the heart of photography. That's how it felt for me. So I didn't want to do it as I'm going to shoot at a studio, or I'm going to, at that time, I just didn't see that for me. So I ended up going into IT, and I love it. But that's how I kept my photography then as a passion on the side. So I'm always, shooting. Actually, for my birthday, my wife gave me a new camera because I needed, an upgrade, and I got a new camera for my birthday.
That's awesome. And I think we actually posted, and I'll do it again when we get done with this. But I'll repost. It sounds like you have a website that a lot of your pictures are on.
I didn't actually have a website anymore. Also because it's more for me than to show off.
Gotcha.
It's more because I enjoy it and I love sharing it with people who were on the trip with me, or let's see, and they're like, I really like this, or that's great. But it's not like I'm gonna have a website that I'm promoting just to show it. But now for this, and there's also some photos of Taiwan in those. I was like, okay,
oh really?
I'll put some stuff up there, and for the people from that era who, Jason would probably get a kick out seeing some of the art, and so I'm like, okay, I'll put some of the stuff up there, and so I put some stuff on Flickr, and the link is there.
Do it, man. That's awesome. Especially if there's Taiwan pictures, I'm all in. So that's awesome. So, speaking about traveling too, you still, I'm gonna guess it never goes away. People like us, the travel bug never really goes away. Are you still a traveler? I mean, obviously everybody's kind of in lockdown right now. I don't mean specifically these times, this minute of the year, so to speak, but are you still a traveler?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done some trips since then. At first, you have this thing where first you have the time, but you don't have the money. Now you've got the money, but you don't have the time. So you have to make the time and try. So the first trip I paid for myself, intercontinental, was quite special, and I'll never forget it. It was together with my buddy who lives in Dubai now. but he was back in the Netherlands at that time. And we went to New York, Washington, D.C., and Iceland because it was cheaper. It was cheaper to go via Iceland. And then you get to do a stopover if you want. So we did. So we did, like on a shoestring budget, we did New York. We crashed at somebody's place that we knew in Long Island. We did New York, and we walked around. We didn't really take the subway. We just walked around for days, just seeing everything. We took a Greyhound to DC, did DC, took the Greyhound back, and then flew our plane back, and then did Iceland for 2 days and came back. So that was my first trip, and it was the first one I paid for. So I'll never forget that one. That was amazing.
When was that? How long ago was that?
95.
Okay.
Yeah. My parents did some amazing things with me. Like I said, we did New York to San Francisco and then Vancouver to San Diego, which was unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah.
We traded in our business class tickets 1 year in Taiwan for around the world. And we did Taiwan, the Netherlands, UK, California, Hawaii, did a week, Hawaii, Maui, then flew to Sydney.
Damn.
Did Sydney for 3 days, did Brisbane, then rented a camper again and did a week Australia camping, and then flew back to Taiwan, which was crazy.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it makes me jealous. Yeah.
But myself, I've done trips to Turkey, Greece, Spain, Italy. I wanted to see a little bit more of Europe because I hadn't experienced that, being so far away. But I've done Thailand, Bali, Egypt, Dubai, Singapore. I've tried to say Germany, France.
Is there still a place you'd like to get to? Obviously, the world's a little different right now. Yeah, Asia, period, right? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I wanted to go. I think a year ago, I tried to. I was coming up with some plans to go, but I didn't have a job at the time, so the money was just too tight to make it work. Then I thought about going this year to the reunion in Taipei, and then of course now with the Corona thing that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But Taiwan is still on my list. Although in one part I want to go back and do memory lane. On the other hand, I'd love to do it again a little bit later when my son is a little bit older to show him.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
So he can actually remember it. Yeah.
That'd be cool. How many languages does he speak?
Well, he likes languages and he's not afraid to go and talk to people. So he's in a very Dutch environment now. So it's mostly Dutch, but he's starting to pick up some English. He's got a cousin in Greece. My wife's sister's married to a Greek guy, so we go there a lot. So he knows a few words Greek. He knows how to ask, the Czech and all these languages because we make him go in Italy, to ask him, go ask for them. He walks into the kitchen and talks to the guys, and he'll be like, "Il conto per favore."
That's awesome, though. That's incredibly awesome.
Yeah. So he's getting started. Yeah.
Gotcha, man. Well, listen, we're kind of winding down on time. Before we kind of conclude this, and I could keep, I say this every time, but it's sincere. I don't mean it to whatever, but I could talk to you for another couple hours, man. This is awesome. But the one kind of question I always throw out there before we get off this webcast is, you said you're a beer guy. I'm a beer guy, right? If you could sit back and alive or dead, no longer with us, whatnot. If you could have a beer with anybody right now, who would it be?
Yeah. It's funny. My wife actually thought I was going to say something else. She thought I was going to say my best friend's name, Arne, because he's so far away and it would be a good opportunity to talk to him. I said, but I can still see him. He's alive. Yeah. He's there.
Yeah.
And even though from both my parents are gone, my mom and I were closer than with my dad, also because she was more of an outgoing and warmer person and more cuddly and than my dad.
She's a mom, right? Yeah.
Especially more old school. Yeah. But as I got older, we got closer and closer.
Yeah.
I would love to have a chance to sit down with my dad, and that's because excuse me. One, I started missing my dad a lot more when my mom passed away because she was my last connection to him. We always kept sort of his memory alive and we talked about him a lot. So I got to hear all these stories. It was almost like he was still here. And also because they lived abroad. And she would tell me stories. I mean, I would mostly talk to her. If I called both my parents, I would mostly talk to her anyway, but she'd tell me what's going on. And so even when he was gone, I would call her and we'd talk about him, and it would be almost the same. But when she passed, suddenly my link to my dad was gone, and I started really missing him. And I would love to have a chance to sit down and chat with my dad, because he doesn't know Anouk. He doesn't know my son Jasper. He doesn't know any of that. And I'd love to be able to tell him, hey, you're a granddad. You've got an amazing grandchild, and he's a really sporty, bright, fun, loving kid who shares and who's a Leo and very headstrong, but a fun guy. And yeah, I'd love to be able to talk to him about his grandson.
Well, I'm not super spiritual, but there's a side of me that will always be, and trust me, man, he knows.
Yeah, no, I know.
He knows.
I
get it.
That. But
I ask everybody, and it's funny because this is such a twisted thing to say, but so many of the people, even the people I've had on, luckily not everybody, but even with my close group of friends, stateside, overseas wise, we're just at that age, man. We love, a lot of us have lost our dads, and it's so funny because the majority of the people who answer this question say exactly what you did for the exact same reason, and I get it, Yeah. So,
and the whole celebrity thing, and is there somebody famous? And I'm sure there's some interesting people to talk to. But yeah, this is.
No, man. It's funny. The older you get, the more you just want to reconnect with people who are a part of you. It doesn't come down to celebrity status. It doesn't come down to that. It comes down just one conversation. Like my dad never met my wife, and that still kills me to this day. But, and yet I know he's, wherever he is, whatever you believe in, I'd like to think he's looking down and smiling, knowing that I did good. So my guess is your dad's the same. Your mom's the same, man. They're watching over you, especially on today, because it's Mother's Day. So, I'm sure your mom's proud of you, man, and looking down and loving that grandbaby too. So you're doing a lot of things right. And I could talk to you for hours. For the sake of time, I kind of want to wrap this up. It's about an hour and a half. And listen, man, when I started this webcast today, my memories of you probably don't understand this because you're a little bit older, and I keep going back to that because it makes me feel better. Right. So, but my memories of you, I didn't know you super well. You were a friend of my brother's. You were a little bit older, but my memories of you were that you were just a good dude. You were a good guy. You said hi to everybody. It didn't matter what grade people were in. It didn't matter what clique they were part of. That hasn't changed, and I can tell that, man. And I appreciate what you do. I respect the hell out of you. My best to your wife and my best to your son. And I gratefully thank you for taking the time to do this, especially today in the time difference and whatnot, because it's probably getting late for you. But
it's been a pleasure, and I'm glad.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate that. And it's so I kind of sign off always by saying, we're so different in so many ways, the people that I talk to, and yet we're exactly the same. And the fact that you reached out to me and without even a hesitation, I wanted you on because you bring a part that I don't understand necessarily, and yet we're all under that umbrella of TCKs. And man, you're doing good. And we could go on and we didn't even get into your skiing and your world-class skiing stuff, in detail, but Utah is famous for skiing, man. So if you ever want to get out here, you've got a place to stay and you've got, people to take care of you out here too. So,
I appreciate that.
Before we go though, I told you this was coming. My brother sent me a couple pictures actually. And I'm going to try to put these up so people can see this. But this is Alex. By the way, there's a reason I wear a hat because you and I have the same hairstyle.
Yeah.
But I want to try to get this up there. This is, I don't know if people can see this. Maybe not. Here we go.
Yeah, you can see it.
Can you? There we go. Back in the day, there's Mr. Alex, right smack in the middle there. So
right next to your brother. Yeah.
That's right next to my brother. But there's one I haven't showed you, and I purposely didn't show it to you just yet. Because this one, my brother sent this to me as well. I got to pull it up on my phone.
But even though you were younger, I remember you, and I didn't care what grade somebody was in. My first year, actually, as a sophomore, I went to prom because I hung out with an older girl as well. I hung out with younger kids, especially later when I came back. I didn't care. I mean, are they fun? Are they nice? Are they people I want to be with? Then that's it.
Well, that's the connection. I mean, that's what it came down to. Like I sit here and remember thinking back to the old camp. You keep bringing up the old campus, and 90% of the people watching have no idea what we're talking about. But I remember the old campus watching you play, soccer with all those other European guys and a couple of American guys thrown in there. And I mean, that's what sparked the 8th grader in me to be like, I want to be like those guys. Yeah, I want to be like those guys. And so you probably didn't realize it at the time, but you instilled a lot of us, not just me, but you were the guys we looked up to. I mean, you set the tone for that next generation coming through, and that was me. So I applaud you for that, man. You probably didn't even know that, but just trust me, you guys made a significant impact on who we were coming up. So I don't know if that, whatever, cheesy or not, but I just want you to know that. So you saw I was too afraid to ever say anything back then. We were 8th graders. You guys were all high schoolers. But I promise you, when you talk about role models and you talk about, Michael Jordan at the time, or, all those NBA guys at the time, I can promise you the majority of the kids that I grew up with, it wasn't about those guys. It was about you guys. You set the tone, and then we kind of carried that torch and then passed it on ourselves. So I just want you to know that, man. I appreciate that. So my best to you, man. My best to your wife and your kid. Whenever you want to come to Utah and ski, man. Absolutely.
If we get to fly again and you make it out to Europe, Amsterdam is a good place to be.
Well, we went to my wife and I went to Italy for a honeymoon, and neither one of us has ever been to Holland. So I might take you up on that, man. Once this all kind of clears up and life gets back to normal. So
that's probably my favorite vacation country right now. Italy. We go camping every summer in Italy.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So, well, don't be shocked if we show up on your doorstep one of these days. So, but the invite's there for Utah, man. I mean, the mountains, honestly, the Park City is about a 30-minute drive from me. It's not far at all. So you ever need a place to stay, you open invitation. So I kind of conclude these by just letting you talk, and anything else you want to say just regarding your upbringing, your experience, anything else you want to talk about. The floor is yours right now, man.
Like I said, I was really, I feel happy and privileged that I had that experience. It's amazing. And it's formed me who I am. I treasure it. I try to share it with my son in showing pictures and talking about it. I think he'll understand better when he's a little bit older, but he'll get I'll instill that in him. It was an amazing experience, and it's mostly because of the people I was with. The experience I had there, it was fantastic. I really appreciate you doing this. I know you said you started out for something to do, but it's turned into a lot more. I've been watching them and laughing and crying along, and it's been really good to see them. So keep it up. You're doing an amazing job, and thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
I appreciate it, man, and I'm glad I kept it together. You and I could talk about parents and the depthness of that, and it sucks, but it is life, right? So
it is life.
We could have talked about that for a long time, but the thing I kind of reflect already back to what you and I talked about, and I haven't brought it up enough, but when you talked about the goodbye section of things, that's obviously it's always it's there, but I guess I don't think we've talked about it as much as you and I have. And that's so true. Like, that it's a blessing and a curse. We say goodbye so much, it becomes a part of us, and yet it never gets easier. And yet we're so spoiled to be able to say that we grew up the way we did. So, man, I truly appreciate you coming on and giving your experience and your story and whatnot. And we'll definitely chat again soon, because I don't think this is fun for me. It's therapeutic for me. And I get to talk to people and kind of see, their experiences and promote their experiences. And I just like people. So, I mean, don't be shocked if I call you up again and we do this one more time. So
that would be amazing. And the same goes for those that are watching, from TS days and want to reconnect and have a chat or
right. Well, that's why I included all your, that's why I included all your social media stuff. I mean, if you want to reach out to Alex, it's on there. This will be replayed on my blog, which is BenThere.org. It's also on, like I said, this was the first time. I don't even know what to expect. I'm gonna have to go back and look, but this is also on a YouTube channel now, BenThere. So Google BenThere and you'll be able to see this on replay as well. But we started this talking about it's Mother's Day. So all you ladies out there, all you mamas out there, thank you so much for for everything you brought us. And Alex, I know your mom's passed on, but she's here, man. She's with you. So thank you, brother. And until next time, like I said, we'll talk more. We'll get you back on here and we'll talk about some other stuff. But I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks,
and you're still a good dude. You're still the exact same guy I remember. So you always were approachable, and that wasn't always the case with those older high school kids when I was in middle school. So I appreciate that. So
thanks,
right.
Ben. And keep doing your show, and I'll keep watching.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So those of you watching, thank you for watching. Again, this can be watched once we get off the air here. I'll be reposting this on BenThere.org. Plus, there is a new YouTube channel on BenThere is what you need to search for. Happy Mother's Day, Alex, your brother. Thank you for doing this, man.
Thank you.
Hold on, I gotta put Roman's song back on. I promised him I'd play it at the beginning and the end. So let me do this. All right, there we go. All right, Alex, cheers, buddy. Take care of yourself. All right, buddy. Later.